All right, guys. For a long time now, I have said over and over and over again that the vast majority of these big right-wing media demagogues are funded by multi-billionaire dark money groups, and that most of these figures are multi-millionaires living lives that the vast majority of you and their fan bases could only dream of. Hell, I could only dream of. Like, most lefty, even the most wealthy, Hassan is not as wealthy as, like, the middling range, like, Steven Crowder types, right? Like, Steven Crowder is definitely more wealthy than Hassan, and Steven Crowder isn't that big as far as conservative figures go. They are funded by a lot of money. And I think it makes a lot of sense why, right? There is not a lot of money to be gained from progressive politics. I mean, out of donations and grassroots funding, you can, but there aren't any massive media organizations. There is no, like, establishment that desires left-wing politics to be pushed and supported, right? If anything, the establishment, the companies, the corporations, they begrudgingly toe the line of where society has progressed to, not the other way around like many conservatives would lead you to believe. There is a lot of corporate interest in pushing culture war issues in favor of the right to get the working class to vote against their best interests. There's nothing that the right wants that benefits the working class. Some issues may look like they benefit the working class on very surface level, but if you actually look at it with any level of nuance, or you look into it deeply, you'll find the vast majority of issues that conservatives claim they're for the working people on, they actually end up fucking over the working people on. It's just it's a lie. The conservatives, for the vast majority of issues, are just liars. But you really just kind of had to take my word for it. Especially when it came to the likes of the Daily Wire and Steven Crowder and Candace Owens and all of these types, right? In fact, I think there was a recent TikTok that Chris Ray Gun put out. Chris Ray Gun, friend of the show, cool guy.
Now, this is the story all about how several years back I got an email from some shady people with a lot of power who said you can make a ton of money towing the conservative party line and we'll make sure that happens for you. And I said, nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be beholden to any fucking body but me. And I refused that offer, and the years went by, and it's become very fucking clear who the people were who just did not refuse that money. And it's fucking actually wildly obvious, and it's kind of sad.
What a fantastic TikTok. What do you guys think of that one? It's just been an open secret now for a long time that, like, the right is pretty much astroturfed its popularity. You can use money and power to fake a countercultural movement online. Gamergate was literally essentially manufactured, or at least manipulated in large part, by Steve Bannon, Trump's campaign manager, to help him get Trump elected, to push right-wing politics as a countercultural narrative against the mainstream left. And of course, there's nothing counterculture about falling for traditionalist far-right fascist political opinions being peddled to you by multi-billionaire funded dark money groups. That's just my personal opinion. I will let you do, you can make your own opinion. That's just my thoughts. Big dubs to Chris, of course, for turning down that money. And yes, it is, of course, quite obvious who took that money and who did not. That TikTok and the post of that TikTok by Chris got absolutely brigaded with conservatives screaming at Chris that he's turned to a lefty grifter and he didn't provide receipts, and just absolutely so mad at him for outing that, because, you know, they're quite sensitive about the fact that everything that they believe basically built on a foundation of sand. I would be quite scared if that was my world too, you know? If, like, my entire reality could just crumble if, like, a tiny gust of reality hits it, you know? Like, yeah. Anyway, something came out. Basically, the Daily Wire, which is this massive conservative media organization, the head of it is Ben Shapiro. I think it's owned by somebody else, or, like, the CEO is somebody else, but, like, Ben Shapiro really is the face of the Daily Wire. They offered Steven Crowder, somebody who is arguably more monstrous than most of the Daily Wire. Actually, no, I'd say Matt Walsh is more monstrous than Steven Crowder, because Steven Crowder, I think, genuinely is just kind of a bigot who thinks being a bigot is funny, and it would be like a nice boost if we got fascism on top of that. But like Matt Walsh is actively trying to spearhead, like Matt Walsh wants to be one of the mainstream media figures associated with the trans genocide when it goes down in history, if it happens, right? Like that is his goal. He wants to be like the Heinrich Himmler of the trans genocide if it happens, right? That is his goal, and his mind is set on it, right? With that said, they reached out. Daily Wire reached out to Steven Crowder and offered him a $50 million contract. Listen, I know we give Hasan, like the richest lefty figure there is, a lot of crap for buying a $3.5 million house in Hollywood, but like your average conservative media demagogue is turning down $50 million contracts. I really hope that kind of like gives you some insight into how much money and power these right-wing figures have. There is no reality, no matter how much fan support I could possibly muster, how much fan support Hasan could muster, Vosh could muster, name your favorite lefty content creator, they can't muster the amount of grassroots money and support these right-wingers are just getting funded by black money groups. This is not a audience's fault thing or anything else. It is simply the fact that the powers that be are willing to fund these right-wing propaganda shit. I mean, look at the rise of Abby Shapiro. For no other, like, there's no better example than the rise of Abby Shapiro. Abby Shapiro just wasn't really popping off naturally on YouTube. There was no natural growth happening. The channel wasn't growing. People weren't watching it. So, as many of you might remember, a fuck ton of money was put into Abby Shapiro's channel by Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. You could not escape these Abby Shapiro ads. You would have these videos popping up before your video, before whatever you wanted to watch, that was like, here's how to be a good submissive wife. And it's like, get this shit out of here. Or what I like about being married to a conservative man as opposed to a liberal man. Like, just the most bottom of the barrel conservative, like, drivel. And it would be pushed to you non-stop on YouTube. And ironically enough, for roughly a year, it didn't serve the desired effect that the Daily Wire wanted it to. It just pissed people off. You know, normal people were seeing this just invading their day, right? They didn't want to see it, and most of them just clicked the videos to go leave a dislike and a hate comment. You know, all of Abby Shapiro's videos were massively ratioed, and while the ratio hasn't improved that much to this day, she's actually gotten to the point where she has a legitimate fan base and audience now. And none of it was organic. None of it was natural, the same way that, I don't know, I grew. Like, I had to do it through shout-outs and coordination and growing in the algorithm. So did Vosh. So did Hasan. Although he had TYT, but that's still just getting shouted out. So did Destiny as well. Like, name any political figure that is even marginally left-wing, they probably had to start out far more on their own than, like, Abby Shapiro did, right? And with that said, the Daily Wire is very willing, and, you know, the powers that be, the other dark money organizations that are funding these things that are not just the Daily Wire, are very willing to put a lot of money into pushing this culture war narrative. So I say all of this because Crowder turning down that $50 million contract ended up causing a lot of drama. And as you can expect, our favorite right-wing grifter, The Quartering, has been quite on top of covering it and has absolutely jumped on the side of Steven Crowder, from what I can tell. From what I can tell, like, if we're looking at putting aside the fact that everybody involved in this situation is subhuman, more morally speaking, the objective view of the situation I've gotten from what I've seen is that, yeah, Steven Crowder's kind of in the right in this. Like, he just turned down a contract, leaked some I think he leaked some like audio of Ben Shapiro being a real backstabby cunt, which isn't surprising. And then also trash talked them all. Like, I will say, this was kind of a Crowder dub from what I can tell. Oh my god, the thumbnails. Oh yeah, this man it knows how to pump out all the conservative creators that are not being funded by dark money, and I don't think that the Quartering is, are massive grifters that are taking advantage of the algorithm by dumping out massive amounts of content at high speed. It's what the left needs to start doing. SJW YouTuber Andrew Callahan busted in wild claims by multiple women, shocking, all cast, no breaks. SJW YouTuber. We really are, and we even have the image of like the lady who we watched. We actually did a whole video about this lady here, the one with the glasses and the red shirt that they like to use for the triggered images. We went and we watched the original video that image came from. It was the equivalent of like pausing while someone's speaking to like make them look bad, like on a funny face. We watched the video, and as it turns out, she was speaking at like a normal volume and not angrily in any way. And the guy that she was talking to was actually screaming about like killing brown people and how all Mexicans are rapists. And she was just like actually dunking on him, like unironically. Go watch the video if you don't believe me. And people just kind of clipped one frame where she's doing like in the middle of making a shh sound or like a s sound or something, and she kind of looks triggered, and the right basically ran with that. Not to mention it's like an 8-year-old, 9-year-old maybe meme at this point. I don't know. These grifting right-wing hacks have basically recycled the same garbage and been shoveling it into the mouths of their audience for massive profit for a long time. I think it's very important that we harp in on just how much money the right is handling behind the scenes here. Because they will front, like the Andrew Tate types will flaunt their wealth, but most of them will kind of reserve just how wealthy they are. Hell, I know that Tim Pool literally has an underground skateboarding rink in his compound. From my understanding, Tim Pool streams and does his show from a literal compound, and there's like an above ground area, but then below ground, there's like a whole like bunker type area to the underground part of the compound, and it's so big, there's literally a skateboarding rink in it, a skate park. That is how much right. That is how much money we're talking about when we say the right has money, okay? They've got turned down $50 million contract and have underground skate park in their streaming compounds money, okay? I just think it's important. Anyway, we're going to watch one of these quartering videos at 2.5 speed, at 2.5 times speed at least. Is the Daily Wire pure evil after the Steven Crowder battle? Hear me out. Let's watch that one. Yeah, we need to watch that. Let's find out if the Daily Wire is pure evil. I actually do think it's pure evil. I think most conservatives are at this point. I actually never believed in evil. You know what's crazy? Never once as a child or a teenager or anything like that did I believe in evil as a concept or pure evil. It wasn't until I became like an adult and started doing political commentary and I like discovered the right, especially what the right is willing to say and do on the darker corners of the internet, that I realized that true evil does in fact exist. There are evil people out there, and there are a lot of them. Just downright morally bad people. Their existence is a bad thing.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. Just hear me out for a second, okay? Certainly many people know that, you know, where my allegiances lie, you know, in terms of the individual versus the corporate.
By the way, how old is this guy? 22 years old. Believe it or not. Conservatism does not age you well.
But I think what's getting lost in that is I'm not doing a good enough job still respecting and giving appreciation for the amount of good work that Daily Wire has done. Now, there are individual decisions as a company that they've made that I do not like. But I think that the work that...
Okay. For those of you guys pointing out that he's slurring his speech, I need you guys to understand something. The Quartering is what is called a functioning alcoholic, okay? Much like I am a functioning stoner. The only issue is alcoholics are cringe and stoners are based and cool. But yes, the Quartering is like a known alcoholic. Dude gets like blackout, hammered drunk on every stream and like pisses on his basement floor. Yeah, it's like every fucking stream, you know?
That they've done has still been very, very influential, very, very important.
Functioning? I'd say functioning.
You know, at a time when conservative-minded people, not just like hardcore conservative, just like even personal liberties people, everyone, you know, it's easy to forget, but, you know, they gave Gina Carano a budget for a movie, and she got to make a movie because of them. You know, Nick.
How much? Hey, Jeremy, your catchphrase is "Go woke, go broke." How much money did that Gina Carano movie make at the box office? If I remember, it had like a budget of like $12 million, and it made $804. 814, sorry, at the box office, less than $1,000. Gina Carano, who was literally in The Mandalorian, keyword was. I like how I don't think he's going to mention how much money this movie made. This is a shit on the Daily Wire video, but then again, you know, his whole catchphrase is "Go woke, go broke." They'd kind of go against it, right? Because the Daily Wire is all about fighting against the woke.
Nick Searcy was in that movie, also a guy that's basically canceled in Hollywood. You have Cowboy Cerrone, if that's his last name right. Then they had the sportscaster that was fired.
Wait, holy shit, it wasn't just Gina Carano, it was a bunch of other actors who'd been canceled from Hollywood, quote unquote, and it still only pulled $814? That's fantastic. That is great.
Refusing the jab that they hired. I think that these are all very, very good things, and that even if, you know, I'm not loving the way that this is all shaking out now, I think it's important to be...
Listen, guys, I want to be clear. I honestly think the left should just keep pushing as hard as possible in the most cringy ways the vaccine stuff. Do you know why? It makes conservatives not get vaccinated. I'll leave it at that.
Be fair and try to be more balanced. And that's why I put this in like a separate video. Sure, certainly people might get angry about it. Like, I'm still, you know, Team Crowder. I don't love him releasing that phone call. But I think that what's getting lost in all this is, even if I don't like kind of the corporate nature of Daily Wire, you know, my default is always to like defend my friends, to defend people that I am friendly with. And sometimes that means I go, you know, I become too biased. And when you have this...
Guys, I am actively fighting. Maybe it's because I'm high and ADHD, but I'm actively fighting to keep my attention on this video right now. How does this guy have as many subscribers and viewers as he has? It's so criminally easy to be a right-wing grifter. I've literally, my eyes glazed over multiple times. I've had to like snap out of the 1,000-yard stare to get back and like to wake myself back up to pay back attention to the video because it's so boring. This is actually an interesting drama. There's a lot going on, but he's so uncharismatic and has so little ability to give info in an interesting, compelling, entertaining way that I'm already bored, and we're only 2 minutes into the video. Please, this is an exciting drama. It's literally right in front of you. It's on your plate, man.
Situation, you know, with the Daily Wire, I think that, you know, it's easy to forget, you know, the Daily Wire is taking that money from these monthly daily...
Being an alcoholic makes you low energy? Dude, I'm stoned as fuck right now and I'm still high energy. It may be a sativa, but weed still slows you down. It still has a reputation for slowing down your brain, and I'm still able to talk at 1,000,000 miles a minute if I need to, and I'm still able to make jokes, and I'm still able to be entertaining. Being, like, the dude's just not talented at presentation. The point that I'm trying to make to you here is the bar is very, very low for being essentially a conservative shit pipe. What I mean by that is a pipe through which shit comes out of. And that shit is conservative propaganda. So he is a conservative shit pipe. The bar is very low.
Wire Plus subscriptions and producing a lot of content. You know, I liked the Gina Carano movie. And you know what? They flew me out there to look at it, or to meet Gina Carano in person. So, I mean, I think like without Daily Wire, I would never have met her in person. Well, maybe eventually down the road, but I don't.
He has multiple times talked about how he has a massive crush on her and he wants to fuck her. He's like literally does anyone have the clip of him talking about his cucking fantasy with Gina Carano? He literally like talked for like, it was like a 3-minute long clip of him talking about like his fantasy of being cucked by some dude who's fucking Gina Carano when he wants to fuck her, but he can't. Who has the clip to that? Can someone find it? The Quartering's Cuck Fantasy, I think it's called. Isn't it wild how all these conservative figures like Sneeko and whatnot all have cucking fetishes, despite like, and also are dubiously adjacent to pedophilia? Yet they accuse the left of all these things. It's odd. I love that. That's how I'm gonna describe conservatives who are sussy now. They have dubious. They are in dubious proximity to pedophilia.
She could just keep hooking up with fit dudes, MMA dudes, and then like they don't make her laugh, you know? They don't get her. And then there's me. I'm just like, oh, hey Gina. Oh, you look tired. Did you bang another dude
This is not the full clip.
tonight? Oh, sweet.
This is not the full clip. This is not the full clip. The full clip is so much more embarrassing. It's like a full 2 minutes of him describing some scenario where like Gina Carano is the girl that lives next door and like she's getting fucked by like MMA dudes and he wants to fuck her and he's like the quivering simp. Like it is disturbing that he thought it was a good idea to do all that on stream, but I think that got the point across. Anyway, I just, I just wanted to let you guys know there's a little backstory to the reason why he was so hyped about the Daily Wire getting him a combo with Gina Carano.
I don't travel very often. Never been to Montana before. It was kind of a cool experience.
Jeremy, hands above the camera, man. Hands above the camera. Show me them hands.
And also with the children's programming, right? The problem with so much of the content out there for kids is it's like indoctrinating, right? They've committed a large sum of money for content for parents to be able to trust. Isn't like, teaching their kids that there's 76 genders. I think What is a Woman?
My favorite thing, I recently saw a tweet. It was a clip of Blair White saying what kind of a pronoun is ella? Like ella? Like in Spanish? Oh no, wait till the conservatives find out how many pronouns there are for ella. It was French? Okay, my bad. Spanish and French are basically the same anyway. Yeah, it was really fucking hilarious. Like, wait until the conservatives find out how many pronouns there are if you count other languages.
Was pretty successful for them. It certainly was in terms of bringing new members to them based on the numbers. But also, like, that documentary became like a cultural phenomenon. And it almost broke into the mainstream. It started a lot.
He's talking about the What is a Woman movie, by the way, which is basically like the conservatives' rallying cry around like basically like their, you know what What is a Woman is? What is a Woman is the transphobes' Birth of a Nation. For those that don't know, Birth of a Nation was this like old black and white movie from back in the day that basically revitalized American racism in the KKK. And like that movie alone is like the propaganda piece that maybe certainly isn't entirely, but in large part responsible for broad popularization of fascism and Nazism and white supremacy in a lot of America, like outside of the South. Like it made it a nationwide thing. And that movie really gets a lot of the credit for it. Not all of it, but a lot of the credit. What is a Woman is just the transphobic birth of a nation. Turf of a nation, if you will. So, like, this is literally no different than just watching some conservative pundit from back then talk about how influential and fantastic for our culture Birth of a Nation is, right? Like, that is where we are with trans rights right now. Just for a little bit of like a comparison to the past. History does not loop in on itself, but it rhymes. It really does. It really, really does.
A lot of conversations. When you have like Joe Rogan talking about it, that's like kind of the next tier of the conservative bubble. So you have like the conservative bubble, and then you have like the Joe Rogan bubble, and then you have normies. Maybe you have YouTube also included in that. Like,
by the way, this is somebody who denies the existence of the alt-right rabbit hole, describing the alt-right rabbit hole right now, okay? So just listen as this conservative grifter who denies the existence of the alt-right rabbit hole just describes it right now.
Have normies. Maybe you have YouTube also included in that. Like, but I think that, do I like that Jordan Peterson tweeted out support for Steven, then deleted it? No. Do I like that kind of the cold, calculating business aspects of Daily Wire? No.
Is he not part of that rabbit hole? Yes, he is, but he denies its existence. You have to understand, I don't know if you guys have watched, listen, I do think that the person behind the channel doesn't like me, but I don't care. videos are fantastic. You should watch them anyway. I don't care. The videos are too good. Alt-Right Playbook, made by trying to remember the name of the channel right now. You guys really need to watch this if you haven't seen it already. Innuendo Studios, that's the name. It's the Alt-Right Playbook made by Innuendo Studios. There's a really good video called How to Radicalize a Normie. And the analogy used in the video is that the right is like an onion. There are layers, and it is important that as you descend towards the core of the onion, the center of the onion being violent radicalism, terrorism essentially, it is important that you do not believe the onion goes any deeper than the level that you are on. He's essentially describing an onion as well in his analogy he just used as well. Let me just rewind it a little bit so you can hear his literal onion-like analogy as he describes the right. It is important that if you are somebody being radicalized to the right, you need to think that you are as far as it goes. That anyone more radical than you is a boogeyman made up by the far left to shame you for being based. That everybody less radical than you is on their way to being based, but it's okay. They're good for onboarding people further to the right and everything. So there's no point in fighting people who are on a lower radical level here. This is why that's why it's such a big deal. This is happening. Right-wing infighting is quite rare because they are very much focused on building a impenetrable propaganda black hole that draws people in, and infighting is not effective for that. The left cares about, a lot more than just making people agree with us. Like, the list of things the left wants to accomplish, like, if you could imagine that, making more people agree with the left is so far down on that list for the vast majority of lefties. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And I think that's an indicator of, like, which side is more honest. Which side is actively putting in billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars, into creating an astroturfed industry to try to convince you they're right. And which one is just kind of like grassroots people like protesting and actively like trying to vote and make the world a better place through protesting and direct action. Which group seems like they're probably the more honest and correct? I'll let you decide. You guys are smart.
You have like the Joe Rogan bubble, and then you have normies. Maybe you have YouTube also included in that. Like,
he's just that's an onion. But, like, layers of bubbles is basically an onion. Like, he's just describing the same mechanism that the alt-right playbook describes for radicalizing normies to the far right. So, despite the fact these people deny the existence of this slide of radicalism, of radicalization that they contribute to, they know it exists, and they'll acknowledge it in terms that are not negative.
But, I think that, do I like that Jordan Peterson tweeted out support for Steven, then deleted it? No. Do I like that kind of the cold, calculating business aspects of Daily Wire? No.
By the way, I should mention, the Quartering is such a massive self-aware grifter, and I think his self-awareness is really what's allowed him to kind of get away with it for so long, is that it was to the point where he's made, I think, a couple hundred videos on the actress Brie Larson, who plays, I don't even know, Captain Marvel in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And, it was such an overt grift that it got to the point when he was over 100 videos made on this actress, she could so much as breathe. Like, I think she'd said something or, did something that was so minute that it was a joke that he was making a video about it to begin with. And so to avoid the criticism from his own fans, he decided to start the video with a skit of him buying something expensive on Amazon and doing a little joke about how he milks as much money as he can off of Brie Larson because haha, it owns the left. Yeah, my fans, it totally owns the left when I milk this topic and buy myself expensive things. You're really owning the left by watching my video. By watching my content and giving me money, guys. That is the level of grifter the Quartering is, okay? You gotta know. There's a lot of background.
But they've done a lot of good things. And, they're not paying me to say this. But, I read your feedback, and I think that there's a lot of people, who watch me that also watch a Daily Wire, and they're like, bro, you're not being fair. You're too slanted to one side. And I just think it's important to listen to your viewers. And, I still ride with Crowder. Okay, that's how. But like, I still enjoy content on Daily Wire. I don't like Candace Owens. I think she's a legitimate liar and grifter. But I mean, like, I don't have any issues with Brett Cooper.
That's not false, but it's just ironic.
Or Matt Walsh. And Matt Walsh says things I disagree with. I'm sure I say things that.
Yes, he still rides Crowder. He rides Crowder hard. He rides Crowder firmly, and he rides Crowder with a tight grip.
He disagrees with. Shapiro, he's never really my cup of tea. But again, nothing personal against a guy, and I think he's done a lot of good work. His campus debates were like a viral sensation in 2016, 2017, 2018. And a lot of that stuff is why this channel, kind of grew up and spouted up. And a lot of other channels similar in the commentary space. Jordan Peterson, to bring that up, like, I don't like that he deleted that tweet. They say they didn't tell him to delete that tweet. I suspect differently, but
this is so juicy. How is your video so boring, bro? How many views does this video have? 23,000 views in 2 hours. Let's look at the comments. Does anybody criticize how boring this video is? I like Crowder doing his own thing. The right isn't meant to be on only a few platforms or groups. We all know what that leads to. Fan of both, sad to see this happening this way. Feel both could have handled this better. I think the issue here lies in that the two groups have different approaches. Daily Wire wants/needs the revenue that YouTube allows, and so they want their content to have some reach on this platform. They don't need the money that YouTube provides. It's not where they get their money. It's literally just all people like just circle jerking about how they love Daily Wire, they love Crowder, they love Ben Shapiro, or they love them both, and it's, oh, this is so sad to be happening. Oh, our propaganda machine, it's falling apart. No. God. I feel so bad for these people. I actually do pity them to some extent, because, like, you really have to be, like, so gone to exist in a reality where this is the, like, not necessarily this, but the stuff that the quartering regularly talks about and considers like a real issue to be what you concern yourself with as being like real politics. Like, these people live in culture war talking points. These people wake up in a cold sweat, not as to whether or not some bill has been passed that will affect them or their friends. They wake up in a cold sweat as to whether or not like their favorite right-wing figure is winning the culture war right now, okay? That is what keeps them up at night, all right? They aren't worrying about their rights. They aren't worrying about elections. They aren't worrying about... A lot of them aren't worrying about bills or anything because they're kids. They're worrying about the culture war because that's all that affects the vast majority of them. They're quite privileged, right? They're like, whether or not feminists are making their video games look bad is what they worry about. They don't have, like, really that much to worry about as far as they know. There is actually a lot that's affecting them, but they aren't concerned with it because they've been diverted from those issues by the right, because the right does not want you thinking about real issues in this country, because any education about the real issues that this country faces will immediately turn you towards the left. Almost immediately. So you have to be distracted by culture war issues, by the idea that feminism is destroying your life, that like the LGBT community is this horde of pedophiles coming to groom kids. The idea that you can be a hero if you fight against this horde of pedophiles coming to groom your kids, like trying to provide some kind of like heroic purpose to these conservative losers. It really is sad when you think about it for long enough. When you think about how low the bar has gotten for the right. I mean, the bar was always low, but I mean, I feel like it was a bit higher when I considered myself more conservative, so I don't know. Anyway, with all that said, leave a like if you enjoyed this video. It helps out the channel a lot. Comment down below if you'd like to do the same. You can also subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so YouTube tells you when I go live or upload a new video. And of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms that aren't the one you're watching on now, you can follow my social medias, which are all linked down below in the description. And of course, if you would like to support me directly financially to help me save up money for my move and whatnot, you can always do so by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website. You can do so by hitting one of those two buttons up there on the top left, or supporting me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, or Patreon. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.